Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something really significant, a moment in the Gaza conflict that feels like it could be a real pivot point. We're talking about a major announcement, came out July 2nd, 2025, could change things drastically if, and it's a big if, it actually holds. So our mission today, what we want to do is really unpack this proposed 60-day ceasefire. What does it mean for people there, on the ground? And we also have to look at the immense humanitarian crisis that's running alongside all this. We've pulled together a lot of information, trying to cut through some of the noise so you can understand not just what's happening, but maybe more importantly, why it matters so much. We're ready to walk you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of this deep dive as like pressing pause for a moment, a critical timeout in what's been an incredibly intense, brutal situation. The potential here for things to calm down is huge. But, the complexity is also immense. There's so much history, so much mistrust. We need to look at the key players, how things shifted to get us here, and always the human cost. That's always, always in the balance.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The core announcement. July 2nd, 2025, early morning, IST time, SUA 7.42, I think. News breaks that Israel has provisionally agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. And there was this pretty powerful message reportedly sent to Hamas along with it.
That's right. The message was essentially, it's not going to get any better than this.
Wow. It's not going to get any better than this.
Oh, yeah.
That's quite a statement. It sounds very final, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests this is, the best offer they think Hamas is going to get. Puts a lot of pressure on them, obviously.
And the immediate goal of this 60-day pause, what's the hope here?
Well, first and foremost, stop the fighting, halt the hostilities. That's the baseline.
Which is huge, considering the tens of thousands of lives already lost since October 7th, 2023.
Yeah.
Those numbers, they're not just statistics, are they? They represent actual communities, families, just immense suffering.
Exactly. It's unimaginable loss. So stopping the violence is step one. But this 60-day period, it's meant to be more than just silence. It's a window. A chance, hopefully, for much more aid to finally get into Gaza. Food, water, medicine, things people are desperate for. We could see, a big drop in casualties, which would be a profound relief. And maybe, just maybe, a chance for some real dialogue to happen.
But it all hangs on the response, right?
Completely. It hinges entirely on Hamas saying yes, and then crucially, on both sides actually sticking to the terms, that commitment, that follow-through. That's where things often break down.
And behind the scenes, diplomatically, what's been going on? You mentioned the U.S. role seems quite active here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the U.S. seems to be pushing this quite hard. The proposal itself is apparently being delivered via Qatar and Egypt.
Right. The usual mediators, in a way. They've been central to these talks for a long time.
And we also saw Israeli Minister Ron Dermer was in Washington recently. He's a key figure, right? Close to Netanyahu.
Very close. A key strategic advisor. He met with Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, also the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff.
So high-level talks, what does that tell us?
It tells us the stakes are incredibly high internationally. These aren't just, casual chats. They're discussing strategy, regional dynamics. Iran is always part of that equation, too, adding another layer of complexity. It shows how many big players have a stake in what happens next.
Okay, let's talk more about those mediators, Qatar and Egypt. You called them the referees earlier.
Yeah, or maybe the unsung heroes sometimes. It's a tough job mediating between two sides with such deep-seated animosity. They're the ones carrying messages, trying to clarify positions, facilitating any kind of direct or indirect talk. It's often thankless work done, away from the main spotlight.
And they've been doing this for a while in this conflict.
Oh, yes. Deeply involved in past efforts. What's really tricky for them now, and always, frankly, is bridging that fundamental gap. You have Hamas, which has consistently demanded a permanent ceasefire, an end to hostilities, full stop. And then you have Israel, which has typically only agreed to temporary pauses, often linked to specific things like releasing hostages or achieving certain security goals.
So temporary versus permanent, that seems like a massive hurdle.
It's huge. It's like they're operating from two different rule books. Qatar has its connections with Hamas. Egypt has its border and historical ties. They both bring something to the table, but trying to find common ground there, it requires immense diplomatic skill. It's a real balancing act.
And while all this high-level diplomacy is happening,
Yeah.
there's this other crisis just raging on the ground, the humanitarian situation. It's almost hard to reconcile the two sometimes, the talk of ceasefires and then the reality of, well, catastrophe.
It is. It's a devastating parallel reality.
We saw that report, over 150 international charities banding together.
Hmm.
making this urgent call.
Yes, demanding the dismantling of this controversial aid distribution system, the one backed by Israel and the U.S.
Why? What's the problem with it?
Reports say it's just descended into chaos, violence even. It seems to bypass a lot of the established international humanitarian ways of doing things.
So aid delivery points become unpredictable, scrambles for supplies.
Exactly. Leading to stampedes, confrontations. The aid itself becomes a source of danger, not just relief. It's a breakdown of basic order when people are at their most desperate.
That's horrifying. And the UN has been warning about famine.
Dire warnings, imminent famine. We're hearing constantly about critical shortages of everything: food, clean water, medical supplies. It's pushing people right to the edge.
So it's not just logistical, it's life and death every single day.
Absolutely. Treatable injuries become fatal, people drinking unsafe water. It's a constant struggle for basic survival, and it just hammers home how vital that humanitarian access is. You can't really talk about peace or a ceasefire without tackling this immediate human suffering. They're completely intertwined. A ceasefire without aid getting through isn't really sustainable, is it?
No, absolutely not. So maybe we should just quickly recap the context, the scale of this conflict for anyone needing a reminder of how we got here. Obviously, deep historical roots, decades of issues. But the current intense phase really kicked off October 7, 2023.
Right. With the Hamas attacks into Israel, around 1,200 Israelis killed, hundreds taken hostage, a truly traumatic event that shifted everything.
And Israel's response since then, well, the scale of destruction in Gaza is immense.
It is. Much of the territory is just rubble.
Let's look at the numbers, as grim as they are. As of late June 2025, over 58,400 deaths reported overall.
A staggering figure.
And the breakdown is roughly 56,772 Palestinians. And various scholars estimate something like 80% of those might be civilians.
Yeah, the civilian toll, particularly women and children, the elderly, it's devastatingly high.
And around 7,706 Israelis reported killed in the conflict as well.
It's important to acknowledge all the lives lost.
Absolutely. And beyond the deaths, the destruction of Gaza itself.
Infrastructure, gone. Hospitals, schools, homes, just flattened. This creates this environment of, well, despair is probably an understatement.
And displacement.
Rampant. Hundreds of thousands forced from their homes, often multiple times, living in makeshift shelters, tents, or just out in the open. Conditions are appalling. Daily survival is the only goal for so many.
So that's the backdrop for this ceasefire announcement. It really underscores why even a temporary pause feels like such a potential lifeline.
It does. But it also shows the sheer scale of the challenge ahead. Rebuilding, recovery, reconciliation. It seems almost impossible right now.
So how has the world reacted to this latest ceasefire proposal? You mentioned the U.S. role, but generally.
It's been mixed, as you'd probably expect. Some see it as, a vital step, a real chance, maybe the best chance in a while, to stop the killing and get aid in.
But others are skeptical.
Deeply skeptical. They've seen ceasefires come and go. They point to Hamas's consistent demand for that permanent end to hostilities, which Israel hasn't agreed to.
That fundamental disagreement again.
Exactly. And Israel's focus remains on, security, hostages, weakening Hamas militarily. Their endgames just seem fundamentally different.
So what are the biggest challenges facing this specific 60-day proposal?
Well, the deep, deep historical mistrust is number one. Decades of conflict make it hard for either side to believe the other will stick to any agreement.
Okay.
Then, as we said, those differing goals. Hamas wants permanence. Israel wants temporary pauses for specific aims. How do you bridge that?
And there's always the risk of spoilers.
Right. Always. Rogue elements, individuals or groups on either side who might not follow leadership, who might try to derail things with an attack. It makes the whole situation incredibly fragile, like walking on eggshells.
It sounds like an almost impossible tightrope walk.
It really does. So many things could go wrong.
Yet, despite all that, for the people actually living through this in Gaza, this must feel like something, right? A chance.
Oh, absolutely. For ordinary people there, a 60-day pause, it's a chance to just breathe, to not live under constant bombardment. It's a chance for that desperately needed aid to potentially get through in larger quantities, a chance to maybe find missing family members, tend to the wounded. Even if it's temporary, it could be a vital stepping stone. Maybe, just maybe, it opens the door to wider talks down the line. But, have to be realistic. It's a very fragile hope, and the path forward is incredibly difficult. No guarantees at all.
So as we wrap up,
Right.
thinking about that staggering cost, over 58,400 lives lost, the destruction, this moment, July 2nd, 2025, It does feel like a glimmer of something, a chance, however small, for dialogue, maybe some healing, maybe a new chapter, even if it's incredibly fragile.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows it's more than just a news headline, isn't it? This
Yeah.
potential ceasefire, it's a genuine opportunity for all sides to just step back from the edge, to talk, and crucially, to deal with that horrific humanitarian crisis. It demands real commitment from everyone involved.
And it leaves us with a question, I think, for you listening. In a world with so many conflicts like this, so entrenched, how do we make sure these pauses, these ceasefires, aren't just temporary fixes? How do they become actual foundations for something lasting, for real peace? What's our role as individuals, as a global community in supporting these incredibly difficult processes? Processes that need courage, compromise, and a real commitment to justice for everyone. Something to think about.